So here's a radical thought. In some of the most conflict-ridden places on Earth, a new project is testing a really counterintuitive idea. What if peace is actually more profitable than war? And what if the best way to stop the fighting isn't with guns, but with a whole new kind of capitalism?
For decades, places like the Horn of Africa and the Great Lakes region have been caught in this seemingly endless cycle of violence. As one of the project's collaborators, Voltaire Kagode, puts it, the conflict is perennial. It's just always there, a constant, brutal fact of life.
And you have to understand, these aren't just political wars. No, at their very core, they're about survival. They're these brutal, desperate fights over the most basic things, like pasture for livestock and access to water. I mean, when your survival's on the line, conflict, it kind of becomes inevitable.
So is this just an unsolvable conflict? Because for decades, all the traditional top-down solutions have been tried. And let's be honest, they've consistently failed to bring any kind of lasting peace. So it begs the question, what if the entire approach has been wrong from the start? What if you can't solve a problem of scarcity just by managing it, but only by getting rid of it entirely?
And that leads to this huge question. This is the idea behind a new economic model that just flips the old logic of extraction completely on its head. What if restoring a damaged planet could be the single most profitable thing we could do?
Okay, so let's get into what this new blueprint actually is. The framework is called a regenerative economy. And look, this isn't about being less bad or a little more sustainable. No, it's designed from the ground up to make the very act of restoration the most valuable economic activity a community can possibly do.
And what's so fascinating is the fundamental shift you see here. The old model, right? It's a one-way street. You take resources, which of course creates scarcity, and you generate a ton of waste. But this new regenerative model, it's a circle. You restore ecosystems, which creates an abundance of new resources, and you design the whole system so that waste is just eliminated.
So the goal here isn't just sustainability. That's kind of just trying to maintain the status quo. The real goal is regenerative abundance. The big idea is that a healthy, thriving planet isn't a cost or some kind of liability, it's the ultimate economic asset. It actually generates more value and more resources than a depleted one ever could.
But listen, an idea this big needs a place to prove it can actually work in the real world, especially under the toughest conditions. And that brings us to Isiolo, Kenya, a place that's been called the perfect guinea pig for this whole new model.
And we are not talking about a little community garden here. In this arid region, a local cooperative has set aside a massive 54,000-hectare piece of land. That's 540 square kilometers. That's the spot where the first operational demonstration of this regenerative economy is taking place.
So why Isiolo? Well, a few key reasons. First, it's at the strategic crossroads of two huge transport corridors, which gives it massive logistical potential. The community there was also ready and willing to try a new bottom-up approach. And since it's starting from what you could call an economic ground zero, any improvements are going to create really rapid, visible growth. It's a perfect little microcosm of the region's challenges.
Okay, so how does this actually work on the ground, right? How do you actually turn a barren wasteland into a center of abundance? Well, it's all powered by something the creators call a regenerative engine. Now, this engine has two absolutely crucial parts, and they have to work in perfect sync. First, you've got the physical tools, the actual technology that does the environmental healing. And second, you've got the financial tools, the economic system that makes it all profitable. One just can't work without the other.
On the tech side, we're talking about some pretty incredible integrated systems. Things like automated vertical farms that can grow food using 95% less water. Or biological engineering, like using mycelium, which is the root network of fungus, to literally digest industrial pollutants right out of the soil. The whole point is to create a tech ecosystem that works just like a natural one, where there is no such thing as waste.
But that amazing tech, yeah, it's expensive. And that's where the financial side kicks in. Instead of slow, traditional investment, this system runs on its own internal crypto economy. Ownership is given to the community through digital tokens in what's called a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization. And to reward people for collaborating, the system uses stablecoins. You could think of them as digital dollars backed by the project's real-world assets. And profits are stacked from multiple sources at once, selling carbon credits, turning waste into valuable new materials, and of course, the increased value of the land itself as it's restored. The whole operation is managed on a blockchain platform called ThoughtSpace. The best way to think of it is as a digital twin of the real-world project. It's where all the collaborative planning happens, which ensures total transparency. And, crucially, it's the system that distributes those stablecoin rewards, making sure there's an incentive for everyone in the community to participate, especially the youth and women.
This, right here, illustrates the core idea perfectly. Instead of fighting over a broken, scarce resource like a dried-up river, you replace it with a new, community-owned system that creates both abundance and shared wealth. You don't just stop the fighting over scarcity, you make scarcity itself obsolete.
But here's the thing. Isiolo was never meant to be just a one-off project. It's really the first step in a much, much bigger plan.
The whole point of the Isiolo Hub is to serve as a microcosm, a verifiable operational proof that this model works. The goal is to prove it here, refine the playbook, and then copy, adapt, and scale it across other conflict zones, first in Africa and then maybe around the world.
So the really crucial point here is that this isn't just about ending one conflict. It's about sparking a whole new kind of green industrialization, allowing these regions to literally leapfrog the destructive stages of development that others went through. The ultimate ambition is to prototype a whole new, self-sustaining model for civilization, one that works toward eradicating poverty by aligning with the UN's Sustainable Development Goals.
Which, of course, brings us right back to our opening question. By creating a system where healing the Earth is far more lucrative than destroying it, this whole project leaves us with a pretty provocative thought. Can a new kind of capitalism, one that's built on regeneration and abundance, actually heal the world's oldest conflicts? Perhaps the most powerful tool for peace is profit.